Self-talk and emotional regulation for the level you want to play at.
This is Right About Now with Ryan Alford, a Radcast Network production. We are the #1 business show on the planet with over 1 million downloads a month. Taking the BS out of business for over 6 years and over 400 episodes. You ready to start snapping necks and cashing checks? Well, it starts right about now.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Right About Now. We're always helping you get right now. What does that mean? We can talk about last year. We can talk about 5 years from now, which we might venture a little bit. I will say that. But that's just because of who the guests we have. But it's about making action, taking action, and making it happen right now for you through business and life, because that's where we're headed today. It really starts with the brain. It starts with the mind. It's all there. No matter what we want to do, we can get purposeful. But if you don't have your head right, you can't get there. That's when we go to the expert. He is the master of the mind. He is John Assaraf. What's up, John?
Hey, Ryan. Great to be with you and your wonderful guests and audience.
Appreciate it, John. He is an expert in mindset and coaching and teaching actionable steps to help get businesses scale, because it does start in the mind, John. This crosses a lot of boundaries for me that I like. I host another show called Vibe Science, and I might have to get you on that show as well, because it is about mind, body, and energy to get us where we need to go. It seems to be what you live, breathe, and coach every day. Am I right?
You are 100% right. I like understanding what I call the neuromechanics, what's going on in my own head, so that I can understand, why am I doing what I do? Why am I not doing what I want to do, know I should do, and can do? And combining, a neuroscience and neuropsychology into trying to perform at the highest level I can, then teaching what I learned to others.
They called that self-mastery. When I hear you say those things, and not that I try to be honest and not pretend that we master anything to perfection, because it's always an evolution, but it really is like to know thyself. Yeah. Didn't a famous philosopher say that?
Yep, absolutely. The idea of self-mastery, I think first should start with self-acceptance. And not a lot of people invest any time on, this is who I am right now. And before we start getting into, I'm not good at this and I could be doing more of that and I should this and as Tony Robbins said many years ago, should have all over yourself. What about self-acceptance first? Saying, hey, I was born with a genetic predisposition for certain things and character traits. I've been given some things that are easy for me to do or not do. And then there's other things that are harder and require some effort. And the whole idea first is to not judge, not blame, not shame, not feel guilty for who you are right now, because every moment is perfect. And if we come at life from the perspective of every moment is perfect, some things may not be to my taste. And where I'd like to grow and develop, or I'd like to do, have, be, achieve, and feel are all little journeys that we could take and, get on the path to achieve whatever it is that we're looking for, whether it's a mental achievement, an emotional achievement, a financial, physical, spiritual achievement. One of my beliefs is, especially now, how to fill in the blank, anything, how to have deeper spiritual connectedness. We know how to do that. How to 3x my income in my business. We know how. How to get 500 more leads today or this week. We know how. So the issue isn't that we don't know how. A person may not know how, but in general, how to is the easiest part of the equation. The real question is, why am I not doing what I could easily find out how to do? Now we're dealing with what's going on inside, my brain or, my heart, my gut, etc. And we know a lot more about that today that we can tap into.
I love that, because that's getting into what the first thing you said, John, when we were doing the pre-episode talk a little bit is, you were quick to go, I'm a mindset, a master of mindset. I understand the mind, but I make it actionable. And I think that's the key. So you often speak about the inner game for success. How can, people listening sort of that are, we have a lot of high level executives. how do you coach people to like balancing profit, people, and pressure to sort of master that inner game?
Sure. First, we have to understand what is the inner game, right? And it's a lot more complex than people think. Carol Dweck wrote a great book, called Mindset. And in the book, the synopsis of the book is that we either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. Most entrepreneurs, I think, would have a growth mindset, meaning they're willing to grow and learn and stop stuff and start stuff. But when we're looking at profits, people, pressure, let's talk about pressure first, because pressure is a form of stress, right? Mm-hmm. And so if we ask ourselves this question, does the same pressure activate the stress circuit in every human's brain under that pressure? And the answer is no. So the stress circuit, or the amount of pressure required to trip you up, may be totally different than to trip me up. So the question should be, how do I increase my capacity to deal with the pressure of my current, let's say, business, my current life, and how do I expand my ability to handle the pressure at the next 1 or 2 or 3 stages? And so when we're talking about stress and pressure, there's circuits in the brain. And what activates, for example, your fear circuit may not activate mine. So when we talk about mindset, it's a much more intricate discussion than one size fits all. And you may not have the identity right now and the beliefs required to reach your next level of business success. And so we ask ourselves, well, what is identity? Identity is your feeling of certainty about who you are and what you deserve to have and achieve. So think about this. Is it possible to generate $50 million a year in business for most of the people that are listening in their niche?
It's possible, but not likely.
Well, hold on a second. Well, let's first deal with it's possible. Because if we ask ourselves if it's possible, then how do we make it likely? So in my business, I'm in the coaching business, right? And there are people in our industry, coaching industry, that make, $50,000 a year. And there's people like Tony Robbins in the coaching industry making $180 million a year. What's the difference? And the first part is Tony is looking at the game at a much different level. International game, multiple languages, a totally different infrastructure that began with him wanting to build something of that stature and then building the identity, the beliefs, the habits, the strategies to achieve that goal. And most people get stuck at their current level of achievement. And when they set their goals for that next level, they set goals based on what they think they can achieve versus what is possible to achieve. And they don't like to think about what's possible to achieve because either A, they don't believe they're smart enough, good enough, or worthy enough to achieve it. B, they don't believe it's possible for them or it's not possible in their niche. C, it would be fears, fear of failing, fear of being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, rejected, disappointed. And that's what stops them from actually going after the biggest version of the success that they may want to achieve. And right now I'm just sticking to business.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it makes me, John, I'm thinking like two words are bubbling to the top of my head. One of them is potential and one of them is headroom. And I feel like it's like you're increasing both, like when you master this inner game.
That's right.
Like, because anyone listening, I've got my hand over my head, like where you hit your head, because I think John just said it a lot more eloquently than my diagram. But, like you've set these limits that are there. And I think when you both extend the limit, but it's one thing to extend the limit, John, but we have to also, and this is where the inner work I think that you focus on, which is the potential, because I have to become different than I am today to reach that headroom.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Let's maybe back up for 1 second. Let's just understand a couple of things most people don't know about the human brain. Number one, just like almost every electric car in the world runs the same way and every gas-powered car runs the same way, every brain functions exactly the same. So the fear circuit in your brain works just like the fear circuit in my brain. And what triggers it is different, but how it works is the same. How your habits were developed are the same, but the habits you develop, the beliefs you develop, the self-image you develop, the things that cause you stress and may not cause me stress, how they were developed are the same. So when we're looking at increasing capacity, now we're entering the domain of neuroscience and asking ourselves this. Let's say you're in Hollywood for just a moment. And let's say you're sitting at a coffee shop or, tea shop in Hollywood, and one of your favorite actors, male or female, taps you on the shoulder and says, "Hey, I've been looking at you from the corner over there, and you look like you would be amazing at this role that we're filming in 6 months. You're, what about 6'6", 250, 60 pounds? Like, this role would be amazing for you. If we pay you $1 million and we coach you on this role, would you be willing to work with our coaches to learn how to add this role to who you already are? And then we'll film in 6 months." Ryan, what would you say?
I'm in.
You're in. They give you a check for $100,000. Now they give you a script. You've never seen the script. There's just a bunch of writing on the script that said, "Here is your role." What would you do to become this new role?
Got to memorize that script, baby.
How would you do it? How would you do it?
Reading it over and over again.
How many times?
I have a photographic memory, so I would probably at least 3 times.
All right, so let's say you do it 3 times. Would you take your mobile phone and record it so you could listen to it? Would you?
Yes, I would. Yeah, I have my AI, actually, my little recorder on my phone that it does all of that. And I'd give myself footnotes and all of that. So I would,
So every time you would read it, would you add emotion to it as if you are playing the role so you can practice it until it becomes permanently known to you?
Yes.
So
I would
you
give
would
option
practice
A and B, like the role that they gave me. And then, hey, this is a little spin I put on it if you like it.
Great. So but you would practice. And what would happen during these practice sessions? You're basically firing the neurons in your brain. They're creating connections. The neurons that fire and wire in a repetitive pattern become more permanent, otherwise known as an expansion of your capacity and capabilities. So when we talk about, an entrepreneur, and here's something that I ask, a lot of people: show me your daily practice of how you are expanding your mindset, self-talk, and emotional regulation for the level you want to play at.
Mm-hmm. There'd be a lot of quiet.
It's always a lot of quiet. I coined the practicing of that inner size, right? So just like we can strengthen our bicep or shoulders or chest or quads or legs through cardiovascular work or weight training or yoga or Pilates or hiking or hockey or whatever, we can train the different parts of our brain, the neuro muscles, I call them, to expand my identity. No differently, we expand our identity to be able to play this role. Why not imprint, create the beliefs you need to create in order to affect how your brain sees the world? What most people don't know, Ryan, is this: we don't see the world as it is. Our brain creates, what we see based on the internal beliefs and identity and map that it already has.
Yes. You know what I call that, John?
What?
What you just described is you got to believe it before you see it. Most people need to see it before they believe it. And that's why it doesn't work.
That's exactly right. So here's the question. In the brain, right, what is a belief?
Yeah, it's a norm, I guess.
Unfortunately. Were you born with any beliefs? You've got 4 boys. Were they born with any beliefs?
No.
0. Were they born with any fear?
No.
Were they born with a self-image? I'm smart enough, good enough, I'm confident, I'm not.
No, it's all the world that's conditioned them.
So you condition them, your spouse, partner conditioned them, their school, each other conditioned them. So think about this. From a pure brain perspective, we have about 85 billion brain cells, like marbles. Those marbles activate and connect to other marbles, brain cells. The connections that are reinforced become dominant patterns. The dominant patterns around our self-talk become the norm. The dominant patterns around how we react or respond to stuff becomes the norm. The dominant patterns of what we expect becomes the norm. The dominant habits become the norm. And then we just reinforce patterns from the age of literally 13, 14 till we die. So most people watching or listening to this podcast are not 13 or 14. They're probably 25, 35, 45, 55, probably in that range.
Yep.
Now, we already have our map. We already have these patterns that have been reinforced, that our brain is just playing the game based on the patterns that are already ingrained and reinforced and conditioned like software. So what I've gotten fairly good at doing is helping people refire to rewire for whatever the next levels of success is, and understanding how to do that, based on neuromechanics of the brain. And that's why people have a very, very hard time with hypergrowth. And they usually go from, X to 100,000 to 250 to 500 to 1 million. But how often do you see someone go from 1 million to 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 million? Rare, but it's possible. So if it's possible, why not possible for me? And now we have our story that we're gonna say. Now we're gonna get into the story that justifies our current set of results.
Can you talk about the intersection between visionary thinking and sort of the neural part here you're talking about? Like how do leaders expand what they believe is possible for their companies?
Because of what you said earlier, I'm going to dive into the world of, spirituality for just a moment without going off the rails too much.
That's fine.
We have a brain, right? Electromagnetic switching station that receives and sends out energy information, right? So we've been given a faculty called imagination. And our imagination is part of our brain that can imagine what's possible or what we would like to achieve. And for anything that we want to achieve, the vision is part one of this. We want to get into what I call resonance, coherence, and flow. So we want to align the vision, the idea, right, with the emotion, the energy and motion of my 100 trillion cells. Now, when I have a vision for, an outcome that I want to achieve for my company, and I am emotionally yeah, let's do this. And I engage my team, all right? And they buy into the vision and the mission and the why that we want to do this. When you create a vision that is strong, big, it's energetically charging you, and you get team involved in that, you're increasing the amplitude of your energy of what you and I and everybody else is. Now, part one. So we get that alignment, right? And that is called sympathetic resonance in quantum physics. But there's also something called destructive interference. So destructive interference is, let's say I say, Ryan, let's start this business and you and I build this thing and help a lot of people, and let's grow and let's make a difference in the world and have impact and influence, and let's make a ton of money and give a bunch of charity. And then you have another partner or somebody on your team that goes, well, that can't be done. Destructive interference. When beliefs do not match vision, destructive interference. When habits do not match vision, destructive interference. When fear runs the show, destructive interference. In the world of manifestation and growth, we want to create sympathetic resonance around the vision, the goals, the why, part one, and then the strategies, the tactics, the timelines, and the tools and resources. Now we have an entire sequence, no different than what they do to put a human on the moon and bring them back home safely. All systems go. So we have to have the mindset, we have to have the emotions, and then we have to have the right strategies in the right order, done at the right time. Now we have coherence, harmony, and flow. Most entrepreneurs do not take the time to create the sympathetic resonance that is required, even though we know exactly how to do it.
Why?
Well, for some,
it's hard. Or is it too
it's
fast?
Hard. Yes, it's hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. So let's understand why do some people, not do it? their story. They tell themselves a story. It's not the right time. I don't have the money. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the skills. I don't have the team. I don't have, or I don't know how, or I don't deserve it, or I'm not worthy of it. So there's a self-image and story disconnect. Part one. Part two is they have beliefs that limit them, right? And we either have empowering, constructive, positive beliefs that build us up, constructive, or we have disempowering, destructive beliefs that tear us down. But a belief is nothing more than a neural pattern that's been created and reinforced in the brain. And ask ourselves this question: what has to happen in order for me to create and reinforce an empowering belief that would allow me to achieve that goal? And then if I discover what would have to happen, then if I ask myself this question: how long does it take to create a new identity, to create a new habit, and to create these new beliefs that would actually affect positively my behavior? And here's the answer most people don't want to hear. Based on some research done at the University of Toronto, 66 days to 365 days of spaced repetition. Now, when you tell most people 66 days, 3 months, 100 days, they're like, nah, I want the shortcut. I go, okay, good luck. I'm going to give you the science. You want to do it a little bit differently? Keep trying your way. Now, can you have somebody take action today based on motivation? Of course you can. But the key is not about motivation today. It's about consistency of a new pattern that overrides the old habit, pattern, etc. And it just takes a little bit of time. There is no way that somebody who takes the right action in the right order at the right time consistently will not achieve their health, wealth, relationships, career, business, financial goals. There's just no way. It's impossible.
The biggest eye opener for me that I want the audience to get, you've got to get past the motivation. Motivation today isn't enough.
That's
it's
right.
the consistency over time.
That's right.
And, as entrepreneurs, we don't like to wait. But if you're going to build it and make the change, like you said, like especially inside your own brain, it's that repetition. It's over and over again.
If people would get into their heads, if I do for 100 days what most people are not willing to do, I will live the life of my dreams. And this is why it's not the smartest, the fastest. It's the ones that are willing to delay gratification. They're willing to delay the gratification. It's not that you can't have success immediately. Right? Like, listen, if I go, for example, on social media right now, and I do a live session and I know how to create a call to action and I have something that's a really good offer, sure, I can make money today. But if I don't do it again tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day, if I don't do this podcast consistently and then market it I'm not going to grow the audience and achieve the potential for it. So instead of thinking, what am I going to do today or this weekend? I like to teach people to think in 100-day blocks. What can I accomplish with extreme, focus and deliberate planning over 100 days? And then can I develop myself enough to build the habit that controls 95 to 98% of what I think, feel, and do every day?
Yeah, the parallels with building a brand and what you're talking about. Like everybody performance marketing has become all the rage, right? Because they want to sell today. I want to sell today. I want to sell today. But you got to build the brand over time.
That's right.
And like I coach brands, this is what I do. I help brands build brand over time, which is playing the long game and doing what you need to do that to build your reputation, build your foundation, all these things. But we're so hyper obsessed on the results today. If
we ask ourselves the reason, like why are we so hyper focused on the results today? It's usually because we're not achieving the results we want today.
Yes.
But the results today are not because of what's happened today. The results today are because of what you didn't do 100 days ago, or 60 or 30 days ago. Whether people like it or not, we live in a world of effects. And for every effect, there is a cause or more causes. And the inner game is the cause of all of your effects. So just like you wouldn't go to a mirror, and scratch out your hair in a mirror, hoping that it would move off of the image that you're seeing, you shouldn't focus on the effects too much. Focus on the cause. Effect will take care of itself. And the cause of my behavior is everything to do with my self-image, my beliefs, my habits, and my emotions. Inner game stuff.
Inner game. It is. We have a show on ours, that's about the empowerment, but empowerment. You got to empower yourself with the right habits, techniques, and working with people like John Assaraf. Hey, John, I know you coach a lot of executives, other people, pivoting a bit, as we must do.
Sure.
Because we have the value of your input, so I'm going to leverage it.
Let's do it.
You talk AI. It's the buzzword of business these days, and in everything. There can be a lot of inner games with that too, because reframing what am I? Your identity in a lot of ways. So, two parts to kind of kick you off a little bit, John. How should be people thinking about this? What are you seeing? What are the trends? Where are things headed? And then we can kind of get on the inner game of all of that.
It's been coming fast for 2.5 years, but most people have just gotten on the bandwagon now. AI in general is the greatest shift in humanity's history since the first human walked on Earth. There's been 110 billion humans that have walked on Earth. This is greater than the Renaissance era, agricultural revolution, industrial revolution, computer age, internet age, electricity, and fire. This is bigger than all of them. So what does that mean? It means that we have to learn how to reinvent ourselves. There are now AI tools capable. There's 177 large language models and over 40,000 tools as of last week. So first and foremost, we're in a sea of overwhelm and confusion. And a brain that's in overwhelm and confused, confusion, by the way, just means new concepts getting fused. But when new concepts are getting fused, we're in a state of stress. And when we're in a state of stress, we either fight it, we flee, run away, or we freeze. So a lot of people have gotten onto the initial bandwagon of generative AI. Use ChatGPT to create this Word document for me, or to analyze this, or write a poem for me, or create a business plan for me, or a marketing plan for me. The next generation is agentic AI, is actually having agents who are doing the work for you. The challenge we have for most people is when the change is so big and requires a lot of cognitive capital, most people don't know how to break it down into bite-sized chunks to be able to say, okay, for the next 30 days, I'm focusing on this problem, these agents, these workflows, these sequences, this testing, and then I'm going to move to the next one and the next one and the next one. So we've moved from generative AI only to agentic AI, which is agents that'll do the work for you, to general AI, which will actually think you just talk to it and it'll go and do it and execute it for you and analyze itself and give you the results that you want. That's where it's all going. And that's going to be, within the next 6 to 12 months. So there's a massive learning curve right now that requires cognitive capital, we call it. Brain power, thinking power. And the good news is we can all do it. The challenging news is this. The brain's number one priority is safety and security, to protect what I have. To stay safe. Number two, it's to avoid any pain or discomfort. Well, this change is painful and this is uncomfortable. And then number three, priority of the brain is conserve glucose, energy. So now I need more cognitive capabilities. I need to go through this change pain, that what we call is to a transition from what is to what will be. And our brain considers that painful and uncomfortable. It doesn't want to do that. It requires energy to get to the fourth priority of the brain, is the benefit and the win. So I have to challenge myself to override my brain's natural propensity through this overwhelming, confusing, rapidly changing time. And most people don't have the skill set or the habit to manage change effectively. And that's why they're drowning in watching some other people doing it. And then the other problem we have is there are people, on social media, showing these graphs of this AI agent connects to this AI agent, and all you need to do is drag and drop and this and that, and that's just a bunch of bullshit right now. That they're making these promises, but they don't understand all the underlying work that actually really has to happen in order for it to work. So people are being sold a bunch of blue skies that can be done, but it's a lot more work than they're laying out the foundation for.
Yeah, we're building agents as well, and I can attest to that. It's a lot of work. It's not plug and play, but
it's going to be plug and play. But right now, it's not.
Yeah. I mean, what does this mean? We talked a little bit pre-episode. It's going to replace a lot of jobs, and
hundreds of millions.
Yeah. And so when knowledge is cheap and no longer a value source, and now we're moving, like you said, into this agentic world where it's not just the knowledge is cheap, the knowledge and ability to use it. How do people make money? And how do they have self-identity?
So I think we have to shift how we're getting our rewards. So we shift how we're getting our rewards. A lot of us entrepreneurs, I have this identity, like this is my business, this is what I do, therefore this is the value that I derive from being this. Yep. And I like to suggest that the way you derive your value right now is this. Understand that in times of change, this is a Eric Hoffer quote. In times of change, he said, the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists, while the learners inherit the earth. So for those of us who are willing to learn, to change, to let go of what was, to get used to understand how to take advantage of what is, 95% of people will not make the shift right now. The early majority is going to be slower than ever. There's the early adopters whenever there's change. And you, Ryan, are one of them. I'm one of them. But then there's the early majority. The early majority is taking way longer time right now because it's much more complex. And if you don't know how to use technology, for example, then even using, Lindy, Make, Pabbly, or Zapier is like, what am I supposed to do with this? Right? So it's going to be, for those who are willing to make the shift and be comfortable in this highly uncomfortable stage of our development, A, will make a lot more money, be able to help a lot more people. But B, somebody is still going to have to, for the time being, for the foreseeable short future, 1, 2, 3 years, manage what is happening with the AI. We don't yet have the systems of AI being able to manage themselves and have supervisor AI agents. Even though we already have them, we have to have people who are managing the supervisor and managing the agents, which is like, if you think about it, like what the hell is he even talking about? Supervisor agents, managing agents, like, yeah, I'm managing little robots is what I'm managing that are going to be humanoid, in the next 5 to 10 years. It's like, get your head around this, because this is a change of biblical seismic proportions that I'm not going to fight. I'm going to learn how to ride this wave versus being crushed by it. And so the first thing from a mindset perspective is I'm going to learn how to surf this wave.
Yeah.
And in order to surf this wave, the first thing you learn in surfing is the first thing you have to do. Yes, you paddle out there and you have to point your surfboard towards the beach. So everybody, where is the beach? Where is this all going? You need to know. And then you got to pick your surfboard, your tools, so that you can use it for your personal life, whether it's ChatGPT, Llama, Mistral, whichever LLM or 2 or 3 you're going to use, whichever tools you're going to use. None of us needs 50 tools. We need 5 to 10 tools, like your tool chest in your garage. You don't need 150 tools. Most of us use 5 tools, a hammer, a wrench, a couple different screwdrivers, and we're pretty good to go. You need to choose which are the tools that I need to master now so then I can master 5 more down the road and reduce it back down to the ridiculous. And think about, how do you fix any of the problems you have in your company using AI? And then how do you accelerate what you're doing using AI? Because it's faster, cheaper, easier, and better. Even before this call, Ryan, I created this brochure for an event that I'm going to have in September. And I sent it to my lead neuroscience expert. His name is Mark Waldman. He's also written books like I have. And he goes, John, this is like scientifically perfect. He says, how long did it take you to write it? I said, 15 minutes. He goes, what? What do you mean 15 minutes? I said, yeah, it took me another 15 minutes to get the images in there. It was like 15-page brochure. His jaw just dropped. When I would pay him to write this kind of stuff, it was literally $500 an hour, and he would take 5 to 7 hours to create what I sent him that I created in less than 30 minutes this past weekend.
It's powerful, man. I did the same thing. The show notes, like everything we do with podcasting, everything to do with growing, like social media and everything else. It's like, if you aren't using these technologies, it's like you're just, I don't know what to tell them. But I will say, entrepreneurs, generally speaking, people ask me all the time, okay, what are the keys to success? And I think you would agree with this one, John. Highly curious and willing, that learner thing really hit with me, because I think about like myself over the years and like what differentiated me from my friends. And look, I mean, they have, some of them are more successful than me, not many, but some. But it's not because I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm a learner, man. I'm a learner. I love learning. I'm curious as hell. Yeah. Like I gotta fucking know, like I want to know. And I'm a practitioner. Like I don't just, there's something about those attributes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. Many years ago, I was on Larry King about 7-8 times. And on one of the episodes, I actually got a chance to interview him. A video of me with Larry King glasses and his straps. And I was interviewing him for one of our shows that he came down to San Diego for. And I said, Larry, because I'd met him and he was just like an ordinary guy. And I said, like, what do you think like has made you so successful? I'll never forget his answer. He said, John, I'm just more curious, than the average person on what, why, how. And I'm just curious. He said, I'm just a voracious learner. And he says, and that has helped me become really good at what I do. And so I think that's one of the greatest skills. The other thing that it does, Ryan, is when we're curious, there's something in the brain called the neuroplasticity switch. So remember earlier we talked about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And a fixed mindset is, this is the way things are. This is how I am. This is why this is. That's a closed mindset. And we're basically not open to growth. When we're born, this neuroplasticity switch, the brain's ability to create new patterns, reinforced patterns, is 100% on. The reason babies are sleeping 20 hours a day, 22 hours a day, is their brain is creating, through the sight, the sound, the tactile, the smelling, the eating, and all this stuff, it's creating these patterns, a map of reality. By the time we're 13, this neuroplasticity switch turns off, and then we're reinforcing these patterns. But for those of us who remain curious, it flips on the switch again. So anytime you're reading, watching this podcast, taking notes, implementing, talking about it with your friends, going to AI and saying, how can I use this? What? And you get curious, you're activating and reinforcing this success pattern of curiosity. And if you're asking the right questions, now your brain starts to say, okay, I've just learned this. I discovered this. I could do this. I could do that. Now, how do I implement this? Now you're growing. You're back into this growth mindset. And for those of us who don't just passively listen, but we listen, we take notes, we make plans for what we're going to do, we learn from what we've done, how do we change it? We're deliberately and consciously evolving ourselves, and that is where the prize is.
I have taken about 15 personal notes from this, John, and I already have like action in my brain, like spinning. I know our audience does. John, we could talk for hours, man. I really appreciate your wisdom. Where can everybody learn more about what you're doing, how they could work with you, et cetera?
Sure. You can hop onto johnassaraf.com, and I got a lot of free stuff on there. And there's audios, videos, blogs that I write on social media. My Instagram page, I'm on there every day. Obviously, YouTube videos. And then myneurogym.com is my company name. And then I've got a few New York Times best-selling books, Having It All, The Answer, and Inner Size. And then the final one is my Inner Size app. If you want to get, to be a better entrepreneur, there's brain training inner sizes using the best methods. You just go to innersize.com. It's like $100 for a year to get access to 600 brain training inner sizes and videos on really mastering your mindset and your emotions and your habits.
We'll have all of that in the show notes, all of those links. And let me tell you, I spent some time on a few of these things, and there's times where I go to things and I feel like, because I am curious, I go down the rabbit hole sometimes. It's a lot of value you provide, John.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
And you're doing a lot for the world. I really appreciate all that you do and for coming on the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Great having you. Great being on your show.
Hey, guys, you know where to find us. RyanIsRight.com. Hey, I'm right, because I know guys like John who are providing value, insights, and telling you like it is, because you've got to work on the inside to get what you want on the outside. We'll see you next time. All right about now.
This has been Right About Now with Ryan Alford, a Radcast Network production. Visit RyanIsRight.com for full audio and video versions of the show, or to inquire about sponsorship opportunities. Thanks for listening.
Show me your daily practice of how you are expanding your mindset, self-talk, and emotional regulation for the level you want to play at.
This is Right About Now with Ryan Alford, a Radcast Network production. We are the #1 business show on the planet with over 1 million downloads a month. Taking the BS out of business for over 6 years and over 400 episodes. You ready to start